Free and live. We are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's broadcast Hangout of Smart Photographers. And if you're a smart photographer, you will be here at the Smartphone Photographers Hangout. So right now we have the M&M show. We may have a few other folks show up later on as the night progresses. It's been a little wild for some of us with day jobs in IT. I know Robert Knight's, burning the midnight oil, and I had my share of it over the weekend, and around we go. So let's get this thing kicked off. We got some very cool pictures on our event this week. The contest is showing a very clear winner for a change. And I have to say, I agree with the audience. They did a fine job this time. So let's get the introductions going. Mr. King, since you're the only one here.
Yeah,
Let her rip.
You might be hearing me in the middle of a sentence, muting myself. We've got severe weather coming in, and I would imagine, because the alert just went up, and I looked at the radar, and the radar is not looking too good, so I'm going to be probably muting some on and off.
That's fine. You just need to live somewhere like I do where it's only 100 degrees in the shade right now.
Well, today we got up to, see, what is it right now? We're 83, and see, we're 83, and almost 80% humidity.
You can keep the humidity. I don't need that. All right. My name's Michael Sweeney. MS Media is my home away from home, and I will be your host tonight. So let's kick this off, and let's take a look at our... Darn it. There we go. Let's see if we can get screen share to go for a change.
5, 4, 3.
This is always fun. Let's see here. There we go. Screen share on. And there we go. And let's see here. I believe we had 10 for the winner.
Yes.
And then we dropped down to 6, if I counted everything correctly. And then our third place is 4 or 5. I think, okay, we got a new one there. So that was number 5. All right. So let's take a look at our third place. Timothy, good idea, sir. Good idea. I happen to like this. I think it's pretty playful. I like the colors. I like the angle. The only nit I have is you sort of overexposed it right in the center there where the yellow's at. And I suspect you did that trying to bring up the detail on the backsides there, because it is a backlit picture. But other than that, I really find this to be kind of a fun little picture. For those that don't know, tilt shift was the topic for this week, and tilt shift refers to a type of camera lens. So when you're shooting on something that's normally on a vertical plane, and you're on the same plane, but you're having to tilt the camera to capture the entire image, really weird distortion where the angles kind of spread, and things look kind of elongated. And so tilt shift is really a way on a lens to bring things back in perspective by moving the lens relative to the film plane, or in our world nowadays, the sensor plane. And you can tip the lens up, down, side to side. You can move the film plane back and forth, side to side a little bit, and get everything to all line up. What's become more popular with the term tilt shift is a way to basically run a line of focus across the image and blur everything else heavily, and it ends up looking like it could be a toy setting, a toy car. It's a way of really kind of playing with the picture and processing it so it has a real playful look to it. And when it works well, it works incredibly well. But it's just not blur that's applied to a picture. You actually have to think about the angles you're playing with. In this case, Timothy's got some angles going. He's looking down a little bit. He's got the blur on pretty much a horizontal level, or is what it looks like to me. And it's just a fun little image. What do you think, Mr. King?
I agree. And this now, to me, what I like about this, I am a model railroader. And this looked like some of these little scenes that we can do on a layout, and it actually looks like a miniature playground instead of like still being full size. But I like this, and it really, yeah, and I agree. To get all the stuff on the backside, yeah, the yellow is a little overblown out, and the whites are really
Yeah,
pop. You know, that's the only
I'm wondering,
complaint I have
Tim.
of it.
So let me go back to the image here. I'm wondering if what he shot this tilt shift JPEG Motorola. It doesn't say anything about HDR. It'd been interesting. Tim, did you shoot this with an HDR? Just add it to the notes there. I'm wondering if shooting with a third-party HDR might have been a little bit better as far as an overall exposure. But anyways, just a thought. So let's move on. Where's my number 6? There it
You
is.
just yeah, there it is, the black one.
Now this one, I like this,
I do too.
and and you can see what I'm doing already is there's the full picture. I prefer. Let's see if I can do this right. There we go. I prefer to crop it down into a Michael Portis crop, or what's better known as a 16 by 9 crop, and kind of spread it out a little bit. And this really does look like a toy scene to me. Looks like little
Mm-hmm.
model cars, with the fake greenery that we put on the tracks for trains like you do, Mike. And
Mm-hmm.
I just like the overall look. I like the fact it's centered with the Y, with the angles going off to the right and to the left. I like the really blurred out cityscape.
Mm-hmm.
This is, to me, this is a classic tilt shift. So well done,
Yes.
Chris. Very well done.
Yeah. And nowadays with fiber optics, you can make model cars with headlights that actually work.
Yeah, and I'm looking as I get in closer. I mean, even with the low light, this is actually a really good, pretty clean image. I don't see a
It
whole lot of
is.
noise in it.
I think this is great. That's why I
So
voted
he
for
shot
it.
this with a Samsung. Interesting, Samsung.
Yeah.
I won't hold it against you, Chris, but that's okay. I like this. This is a kicker little picture. Well done. And let's see, where's our winner? There it is. Plus 10. This picture rocked. That's the only thing I can really say about it. Let's see here. Can I? Yes. We got a little bit of resolution to play here. Again, you can see as I crop in, if it were me, I probably would have cropped it a little bit tighter than what they did. This was Kevin Gladish. Now this is, I believe this is the first time Kevin's actually won the event.
Yes, he's been in
I,
here
I,
before, but this is the first winner, I think, first for the first time, and our first we finally got a first time winner.
this is excellent, and he did a fine job doing it. Um, it looks just a touch overexposed, but not enough to be annoying. And I do like the fact that you can still see quite a bit of detail of the city, and you understand what you're looking at.
Oh yeah,
And I'm partial to warm tones anyway, so the fact this was taken, like, I'm guessing in the morning or maybe late afternoon to get those nice warm tones. Let's see.
yes.
This was shot with iPhone 5, of course.
But again,
I
but
sort of got. I'm not letting my bias show here. So, Kevin, congratulations, sir. You've done a fine job, and you get to call out the next event. And you can either set it up yourself, or you can ask one of the mods and send us a private message, and we'll set it up for you with whatever you want. But it's up to you. So you're on the clock now.
but
So
yeah,
well done, well done,
yeah,
excellent job.
yeah. I tell you, again, it does look like a. I've seen bridge and lake scenes on some of these. Some of these, I gotta one of these days. I need to take my phone and take some pic when I'm at the club when we're having a big run session. Take a picture of some of our modules that have won awards at different train shows.
That'd be sweet.
Because I mean, there's one that has a swing bridge that actually works, and he used acrylic with the blue coloring in it and on the
Oh
bottom
yeah,
to make
yeah.
it look like real water, and he didn't let it settle. He just kind of got it where it has it where you can actually look like it has waves on it. So that picture almost
Yeah,
looked
it's
like
got the
that.
same look to it. Yeah, I in a past life I used to build a lot of scale models and do dioramas and things. So, I'm very appreciative of the detail that goes into something like that. So,
Yeah,
anyways,
and but yeah, that was. I just didn't. I just only reason I didn't put any pictures in. I put some in the club. I mean, at the thing because when I get home at night after I've taken some pictures, I'll throw them up. But I never really got. There was a couple of construction sites that I was going to use for the tilt shift, and I never got a chance to do it because I've been busy.
you've been busy. Yeah, I'm looking for. There we go. So let me share one of my little pictures today. This was actually a couple days ago, and then we'll move on to some things near and dear to our hearts. So let's see if I can bring this bad boy up. There we go. So now this was actually taken in a coffee house I discovered a couple days ago called True Brew, TRUBRU.
Oh, I
And
saw that.
and this was taken, let's see here. Does it say on my details? That's interesting. It doesn't say on the details. So I believe, if I remember right, this was taken with Manual Cam, which is a new manual camera app I found for the iPhone. The last one I found last week was called Manual. This one is actually called Manual Cam.
I saw that
And,
one.
and they each have their plus and minuses. I'm splitting my time between the two apps right now. Um, the one issue I found with Manual Cam is, let me see if I can do this here. So you can see, let's see, there it is. See that gray button right there?
Mm-hmm.
That's the shutter button. When you're in the bright sun trying to shoot, you can't see that button.
Oh yeah.
That's a real problem in my book. Manual cam, I should just say manual. Let's see here. Bring it up. Now, let's see here. Exposure's all whacked out here. Can we get... It's still... Google's not cooperating. Oh well. The button on manual is an orange button that stands out. It's dead center. It's quite easy to use. And so, like I said, depending what I'm doing, I actually find the focus effect to be better on manual,
Oh
but I
yeah.
find the interface to be better on manual cam. They have a dial which is actually quite intuitive to use. So, if you're interested in manual shooting on your iPhone, I'd recommend getting both apps. They're both cheap, they're a couple bucks, and try them both and see what you think. The
Yeah.
output of both of them are decent JPEGs. Neither one that I can find offer a high quality JPEG, which is kind of a fault in my eye nowadays. I should be able to
Yes.
pick and choose for a high quality JPEG or a TIFF, and neither one of them give that as an option, which is kind of a shame.
Yeah. And maybe some of the Apple may not allow some of that to do that for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know. So what you got there? Macro?
Okay. No, again, I'm still playing around. This is using Pro Camera.
Okay.
I think it's now called Pro Camera 8, and I'm still playing around with the iPhone 6 Plus, and I was seeing how close I can get in and how well it focuses.
Looks pretty impressive from here.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the detail I can see inside the flower is awfully impressive.
Yes. See, there's the second one. I um, bumped some stuff up in the using the expo. That's the one thing I do love about some of these camera apps. They allow you to adjust the exposure, all your manual settings.
Oh yeah, that's what we like.
Right. And then that's in the portrait mode. And I think this one also was done with doing it with the HDR setting.
So, all right.
And then there's the
So
last one. So you go to photo details.
let's see what you got there. 1.4 meg. Yeah, see, the size of the new JPEGs are still kind of small.
Yes,
Now, have you tried pushing the editing to see how far you can push the JPEG for post-processing yet?
I have, and I think I've got it about maxed out as I can.
Yeah, because I know when I went to iOS 7, they changed the JPEG compression, and what used to work really well in my editing workflow, all of a sudden was like way too much
Mm-hmm.
on the JPEG, which drove me away from the Apple phone or the Apple app for shooting into third-party apps because I do a lot of post-processing with my images.
Yeah, and I used. Let me go and cancel the screen sharing.
Okay,
Well, it said it's supposed to stop, and it didn't. There it goes.
okay.
Takes a few minutes.
So
But
now,
I use Snapseed and all that,
okay,
and that's about as all. That's about as good as I can get it. And I tell you, I'm very impressed. What I'm impressed. I don't know if you can see it by hands or not. Super steady, and I'm
right,
trying to hold the phone, and with that that stable image stabilization.
really helps.
Oh yes, that's the only reason. That's the big reason. Besides being able to see the screen, that's why I went to the plus because of the image stabilization that's
Sure.
not in the 6.
That's a good point. All right. So something came up during the iOS upgrade frenzy from 7 to 8. And I'm not talking about the really bad patch that Apple released that basically killed people's phones.
We don't talk about that because
No,
I,
we
I
don't
was
talk
one.
about that. That was
I'm the one that got
stupidity on their
bit.
part. Um, what did happen to me, and it apparently happened to quite a few people that I've read about lately, is I was an iPhoto user on the phone, iOS iPhoto, and as I've said before, that the editing within iPhoto was mediocre at best. I rarely it did have one function that I really liked. It had a repair brush that was exceptional. It could edit and
Mm-hmm.
clone really well on my phone. Other than that, I didn't use the editor. I did use it for a couple things. I used it for
Books.
what we call DAM, digital asset management,
Yes.
and I used it to make web galleries, and I used it to make books. And in my own book, I actually reference this that when you're on vacation, you shoot these 3,000 pictures on your phone while you're gone for a week, and you're flying home, and you can actually be sitting on the plane flight building a photo album ready to upload it when you land. And so, you're ready to show off your pictures to the world when you get home without a whole lot of trouble. And, people use it for slideshows and all kinds of things. And when we did our upgrade from 7 to 8, we lost that. Now, Apple did tell us up front that they were going to stop support of iPhoto. Okay. Then they said, yeah, we're going to migrate things over to the new photo app. Okay. What they really didn't make clear to a lot of people is that their idea of migration is basically exporting out pictures that have been edited in iPhoto, and that was it. You
Mm-hmm.
lost your books, you lost your web galleries, you lost all that stuff that you put hours and hours into, and there was no way to recover it, and there was no way to export it out. I mean, at the bare minimum, Apple should have given some way to take an existing iPhoto for iOS book out of the phone and drop it into the desktop, which they still support, and carry on with it, but they didn't. Now, as it turns out, that kind of tweaked me. And when I get tweaked, I kind of like dig my heels in and say, no, I'm not going to listen to you. And what I came up with, let's see if I can screen this share here, is I've got a blog post put together, and I actually came up with a way to use a couple of apps. Um, this iPhone Backup Extractor Pro. You don't have to get the Pro. I get the Pro because I like all the bells and whistles. But it allows you to pull up into this application an iPhone backup and then peel out what you want restored onto a folder on your desktop. So I was able to go in and say, give me my app, give me my documents, and give me the library because the books are actually kept in something which looks like a small SQL database. and I was able to pull all that out and put it into a folder on my desktop. And then I'd get another app. So here's all the restored files, by the way. So these are the pictures. These are the book files. Everything that was on my phone originally is now on my desktop. So I was able to take that and then use another app called iExplorer. I was able to go to my phone, click on apps, and then magically I was able to drag and drop those folders onto my phone and get everything back. Now, the kicker about this is you really need two phones. Actually, well, let's just say you need two iOS devices. So you've got the original, my iPhone 5S, which is now on 8, which doesn't run iOS, iPhoto. And then, what did I do with it? Here it is. I've got another iPhone. This is my old 4S, which was still on 7. I was able to restore to that and run iPhoto and get all my albums and everything back together. And I also ran this on my iPad Air and an iPad version 3 and get it all back on the iPad too. So it requires a couple things. It requires a backup of your phone prior to the upgrade to iOS 8. It requires two apps, and it requires a second phone or iOS device that's still on 7 that you can restore to. It's a lot of work, pain in the butt, but it does get the job done.
Yeah.
The other gotcha, and I'll say it the way I see it. I'm not sure if it's actually valid, but on my iTunes, I know I had at least 5 backups of iOS 8 and iOS 7, by the way. I had the backup I made before I did the upgrade. I had a backup I made right after the upgrade, and I had 2 others I had made. They're all gone. The only backup with the new iOS 8 was the very last backup I made. Everything prior was gone. The only way I got my iTunes backups back to me so I could actually do all this was I run Time Machine. So I was able to go in the Time Machine, go back 5 days, and then say, give me this file and keep the original file that I have and work with it that way. The application I picked, the iPhone Backup Extractor, the reason I picked that app over everything else I was using or tried to use is that's one of the few apps that will actually let you do a restore. It actually lets you read the iTunes backup from somewhere other than the default place. That was critical for me because my desktop is not in the default place on my Mac Pro. I run an SSD drive, which means I keep everything on the boot drive to a minimum, and all my personal data is sitting on a conventional hard drive. So I don't, there's a big long story behind that. But that was one of the few apps that actually let me pick and choose where I wanted to get the backup from. The Pro was $60, I think, and the lower level was like $30. The iExtractor, it is a app you're supposed to pay for. It recovered my files. I'm not sure what paying for it gets you, so I was able to use it for free. But I might go ahead and buy it just as a thank you because the guy saved my bacon getting those files back on my phone. So that was my week's adventure in the world of iPhoto. Hopefully it can help somebody. If you go to my website that you see in my lower thirds, www.msmedia.me, I've got a whole blog entry and all the details there, including links of where to get the applications from. So feel free to stop by. If you don't want to do that and you just want to, send me a PM, that's fine too. You can send it on G+, and I'll give you the details there. So, Michael, what's new with you? Now you've heard my long tale of woe.
Yeah, well, that is unique because.
Now you were saying that you heard that they're going to bring albums back with the photo app.
They're talking about, well, 2 things. In iOS 8.1, there are a lot of people complained about camera roll not being there.
True, I'm one of them.
and they're bringing camera roll back. They're, they've heard a lot of complaints about all the stuff that everybody loved about iPhoto, and they're trying to figure out how to bring it back onto the photo app.
Yeah, I mean, in my humble opinion, which may not be so humble, um, you can't take away a feature like that from the consumer and not expect to get blowback, because there's always going to be a group of people that live and die by the feature that you're trying to remove, and they will be incredibly vocal about it. I mean, in the world of digital imagery, the ability to take all your pictures and make a book out of it is a real plus for anybody's application, and to remove that feature and say sorry is really, really stupid. And
Yes, and it is.
that's just my humble opinion.
Oh, and it's very valid.
So
I don't. The big complaint I always have, and don't get me wrong, I love Apple. I like live in their ecosystem, but sometimes
yeah.
it's their way or the highway, and they think they know best. And
Well, they've always been that way. I mean,
right.
I remember in the old days of the Mac, they call it the Mac Classic, but I remember before it was even a Mac Classic, it was just a Mac. It
Mm-hmm.
was that way. I mean, you don't need a floppy disk. Well, actually, we really do. But it was a big, huge fight to get the floppy disk. Then it was a big, huge fight to get, CDs. And I mean, the list is endless.
Right.
I mean,
And
they've always had the idea that we know better than you do.
but
You need
then,
to
but the,
suck it up.
the thing is, they always end up listening and give you a way to bring certain things back. Just like when they got rid of the all the spinning drives except for your well, in fact, now only computer you can get with a spinning drive is the iMac and the Mini. But the optical disc, they give you a way of hooking up a external drive to do everything. But they kind of listen, and they said, "Uh-oh," and we'll have to see, because what's going to hit the fan is when they take all the stuff out of iPhoto on the desktop.
That is going to be exciting to watch.
And they that's
I
what it's
haven't
saying.
used. I mean, I use well. So here's something that's going to be really interesting, and I'm glad you bring this up. So those that know me know I'm a Lightroom user. I am a Lightroom bigot. Um, I tried Aperture. I tried Aperture 3 or 4 times, and it never really spoke to me. But when I started photography, digital photography, I used iPhoto, and I used it until the databases got too big and they got really clunky, and the editing got really kind of wonky, and I moved on. Now, when I wrote my last iBook, I had to use iPhoto, because iPhoto is actually the only way that you can integrate easily pictures into your workflow and make it an iBook. Now, Photo had better pick that up, or there's going to be a lot of screaming people, because you can manually add pictures into your iBook, but they really kind of push you into using iPhoto because that's the only thing it will read, and it's actually iPhoto slash Aperture, since the database is the same. Um, I don't know. It'll be quite interesting to see how that pans out.
Yes, and because I can see, okay, to a degree, taking some of that stuff out of the phone, okay, but taking it out on the iPad, that's where I know several people. They use their phone to take the pictures, but they turn around and use their iPad Mini or iPad Air to be what actually edits the pictures.
Yep, and I'm in that camp. And the reality
And
is I use Lightroom on my iPad, but Lightroom on my iPad is still kind of clunky. It works pretty well, but it's still kind of clunky. I've had it freeze a couple times, and it's lost pictures a couple times. So it's
yeah,
still a work
it's
in
getting better,
progress.
right? And Adobe realizes it, and they are doing their best to make it a lot better. Because I understand they want to make Lightroom as reliable on the iPad as it is on the desktop.
Well, I would agree with that, but since they've lost their competition, I wonder how much they're actually being driven to do that. I mean,
Well, Apple may, you never, they say, and you see my air quotes, they say that they're going to bring all the stuff that,
was that you?
oh, I said, evidently you thought the iPhone said, hey, Siri, and and it kicked in. Um, but no, oh, shut up, Siri. Um,
That's just
they
sad that you
thought,
have to tell your phone to be quiet.
yeah, that's the one update that's driving me because I got it in here charging, and I use it for, it's my iPhone 5, and I use it for streaming to the Apple TV, Twit and stuff, because I don't, well, when I'm not using the Roku or anything like that. But I get back to what I was saying. They say, and again, here's the air quotes, that the new photo app is supposed to have all the features of aperture brought into it. The raw
Well,
capabilities and all that stuff. But
I'll
I
believe it
don't,
when I see it.
exactly.
I saw
That's
what they did. I
exactly.
saw what they did with Keynote and their what was the other app? Pages, where
Mm-hmm.
they basically rewrote it all and then they stripped out a whole bunch of features because they couldn't get it done in time. They said, "Here you go. Here's your stripped out version that's missing half the features you've grown up to use and love, and we'll get to it when we get to it." So,
Yes.
yeah,
There,
we'll see.
as I said, there's a lot of stuff that I'm not. And of course, when you watch all the keynotes, stuff like that on there, they always are telling you all the positives. They don't say, "Oh, by the way, we've done this. We stripped this out. We stripped this out. We stripped this out."
No, they don't tell you that. All right. So this is probably going to be a short show. We don't have a lot of people to talk, and
Mm-mm.
we don't have a lot to show. I mean, I got my little thing about recovering files, but that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
So unless you've got something to share, Mike, I think we're
Well, I've
going to
already shown
call it.
my pictures, but I'm still,
What
I'm
you got?
still impressed. I'm still impressed with the camera in here. It may be 8 megapixels. It may not have the multi-pixels as some of these others, but I tell you, I still think, yes, I'm biased. I still think the iPhone camera is still one of the better cameras out there. And with this image stabilization on the 6 Plus and the way the way that fast focus goes, they've
Yeah.
they've hit a home run.
Well, people need to be reminded that back in the day, Kodak, remember them? They brought
Yeah.
out a professional, they brought out one of the very first professional digital cameras. Thing was like close to $10,000 and it had like a 2.5 megapixel sensor. So,
Yes. Hey,
all
well,
this yakking I hear about, it's only 8 megapixels. It's
yeah.
just noise. It really is.
My first digital SLR, which is the EOS, it only had like 8, 9, maybe 10. Now, of course, I'm running the 7D Mark III.
Yeah, well,
but but it's not the size of the megapixels. It's what they can do with what they've got. And I tell you, I'm very I see all these pictures now. I have to admit the 1560 or 1510 or whatever it was, the one has that huge megapixel one.
yep,
Yeah, they are gorgeous. Those pictures, but also the files are huge, 22 megabytes.
yeah, well, big
But
being big.
yeah, but I tell you what I like about and I can understand why Apple didn't do that. Is you don't have memory card slots you can put in here to offload stuff. You have finite memory, and if you even if you get the 128 gigabyte one, a couple of 22 megabyte photos is going to take up a lot of space quickly.
Oh yeah, without a
But
doubt.
mhm. But yeah, I'm quite happy.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that happy note, I think we'll wrap this up for a nice short show today. And we look forward to hear what our new event's going to be from our winner. And let's see here. And I think that's
Oh,
pretty much it.
on a short note,
Short note. What you got?
I won't be here next Thursday because I will be at Reliant Stadium. Because the time of the show, I will be sitting in my seat on the 50-yard line at Reliant watching the game.
You know what? You can have your phone and you can be in the Hangout and you can be sharing the screen showing us the game.
I'll try. I'll try.
I'm
If
sure
the
that's
wife
going to offend the football gods of somewhere somehow that
that,
you're
and also
doing
I think
broad.
the wife may kill me.
That's true. That's
Our
true.
best friend may kill me, and every
Just tell
party I'm with.
just tell them it's an experiment. You're doing it for the greater good.
Right. I'll try. I'll try to get in there if I can hear anything, because it's going to be loud.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be the Texans at the with the Colts, which is
Yeah.
our first
That will be a
divisional
very
game.
loud game without
Yeah,
a doubt.
and the roof will,
All
when
right.
those kind of games, the roof is closed, so I won't be able to hear a thing.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and tell us where we can find you at, Mike?
I can be found on anywhere at Michael King 4023, whether it be Twitter, Facebook, um, Google Plus, whatever.
Whatever. All righty. Well, you can find me, Mike Sweeney, or Michael Sweeney, at www.msmedia.me. You can find me in the Twitterverse, Light and Images. You can find me on Facebook, Michael Sweeney Photography. You can find me just about everywhere. I'm not real shy about where I hang out at. Um, and I think that pretty much wraps it up. So we look forward to hear what our new event's going to be, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Somebody will be here to host it, I'm sure. It might be me, might be Michael Portis, might be Ant. Hard to say. And on that happy note, have a good week and keep shooting.